vibesworkshop.com. This is Jerry Leak with more lessons on rhythm concepts from Africa and India that are adapted to the log xylophone from Africa. This one is from Burkina Faso. It's known as the Balafon, and I've been playing it with 4 mallets to demonstrate some ideas that can be applied to other mallet instruments, keyboards, piano. These ideas really are based on drum set grooves, and in the last lesson, or traditional African grooves as well, primarily, but I also adapt to drum set. The last lesson we looked at the Kete bell pattern from the Ashanti region of central Ghana. And it's a fascinating bell pattern. I want you to look back to the previous lesson to get inside those ideas. We're going to move to another level where we bring in a shaker pattern that creates an unusual syncopation to the phrase. As I mentioned in the supporting material, the PDF file, hearing these phrases can really be very elusive because you're not told where the downbeat is, where the beat is when you learn in a traditional context. You just play the phrase and you step inside the flow, and all your mental chalkboards start to fire up as far as where you perceive the beat and even the downbeat to be. And inevitably that is going to be wrong. So it's hard to shut off that mental chalkboard, but we have to embrace what we think the gravity of the phrase is telling us. In other words, what we're familiar with, how we evolved, is putting us in a certain place inside the grid of time. Whereas in fact, it's often and usually often always the case where it's in a different position. That really arises with the bell pattern, which I showed you earlier, because it does not begin on 1, and it has an unusual kind of syncopated quality, on beats, off beats, and all this gravitational energy, which is quite fascinating. It turns out that the shaker pattern that they play has that similar kind of mystery to the gravity and flow of the phrase. When people learn it, they think it's, oh, okay, I'm playing the beat, because it in fact implies 3 consecutive placements of a hit that sound like they're in the pulse of the phrase. And this is not the traditional shaker they play. Their seeds are on the inside, but I'm going to use the ahache from the Ewe people of Ghana, has the beads woven on the outside. And they kind of create a sort of a whipping action with the pattern. Look to some of the links that I'll provide to some of the performances. Anyway, they kind of do this. And the one with the beads on the inside is much smoother and rounder in the shape of the phrase, more consistent. This is a little kind of wobbling about, but it will work in our general sense. Now that sounds like it's maybe 1, 2, 3, or 3, 4, 1. Those are powerful and useful places to hear the phrase, and it's completely natural. Turns out it's on the second. It's on the second partial of the triplet. Each of those hits is on the 1 and 1, 2. So when you're taught this phrase, you think, oh, no problem. But then when you hear it in context, you're even more confused. And then when you finally, at some point, maybe discover on your own or by some friend who's in the group, possibly by the teacher themselves, that it's a completely different place where you perceive it in time, it's daunting. You have to wipe the slate clean and start all over again to learn the phrase. And that's happened to me more times than I can explain. And it's a fascinating process to go through that. I embrace it and I enjoy it, and I use that in my music, not to be cute with phrases, but very clever on how we perceive phrases, how they begin, and where they actually are in time. And that happens with a lot of music we listen to on the radio. A line starts in a different place, off of the beat, perhaps, and then as it builds into the arrangement with other parts adding in, we suddenly see where the beat is. And we appreciate that. We want to go back and listen to it again and sort of unlock that little puzzle. Now, when I play this pattern with the bell pattern, I'm going to just play it on my lap here, like this. Now the bell, I don't know if you can see it. Let me put it here on the drum. It's probably more visible for now. We have this pattern, the accents. If I bring it in position, it'd be 1. And I'm keeping a 4 beat. Sang, see, sang, 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 sang. Now the shaker would be joining. So it's going to, the first two hits of the shaker are with strong bell tones, but then it falls between hits on the fourth beat. Look at the notation and you'll see how the first two line up with the main hits, and I'm kind of ghosting the non-accented. So here we go again, slowly. I started on one. 1, 1. That's the hard part. 4 and a 1. Again. Now if I put in the halftime feel, which is where it's also notated, not a 4 pulse, but a 2 pulse, we get more air, more openness, and that is this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's a natural idea to adapt bell patterns to certainly the drum set and certainly to the balafon, either with accented and unaccented hits, or the way I've been doing it is lower register intervals for the kind of the ghost strokes. So our goal is to find a way to move this to the balafon. The beat part of it, that's something you either hear or feel or is represented in some way, shape, or form, but we want to understand the phrase in as many different contexts as possible. Moving these aside, we go now to the balafon. And our bell pattern, if I begin where it normally begins, sang, 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 sang. 1, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, sang, 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 4, 1. Now a big part of the bell patterns is that they land on the 4 and on the 1. That's kind of the anchor points to the phrase. It's a big part of the A-way bell we looked at before. This 4-1, 4 leading into 1 energy is very common, very important part of the phrase. So here we have again. 1. I'm going to start on the 1. 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4, 1. Those are the hits. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Tune the foot feel. 4, 1. That's kind of the vibe that I'm doing in the left hand to emulate the bell pattern. And in the last video we looked at sort of doubling the bell pattern hits on the balafon, and that's a nice variation. What we're about to do is a nice variation on that. But here's where you should go back to that video, but here's what I did to bring in the bell hits on this side. Okay, now the shaker hits, again, some of those hits are there. 2 of them are part of that. We're not going to play on the 1 though, and the shaker's on 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And I might go 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So we have, sorry. So here it is, just on the single hits. Sorry, I'm back to that bell pattern, so it's very strong. 1, 2. There it is. 1. Listen to the beat and you'll hear it. Good. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. This is where that rhythm gravity comes in very potently. Let me go a little slower. process as you get into this, because I'm really adapting this for the first time with a little bit of a warm up on the Balafon, and I'm definitely feeling the gravity and the energy. And I'm saying to myself, if I did this for an hour without stopping, I'd travel through all kinds of awarenesses. I'd feel like I'm on the edge of a cliff ready to fall off because I'm thinking so much, getting out of my head, getting to the point of being no mind, not thinking. So that's where you're starting to float on a cloud and you're free. And then so you go from the floating cloud to the edge of the cliff quite a lot as your mind has to accept the truth and carry on with the phrase. So this is a little bit of a second rhythm adapted from the Kete Shanti region drumming to the Balafon, the bell and the shaker. Many, many other parts. Look at the video links. One of my tunes, the traditional performances, all kinds of material to get you inside. Now you're going to have lots of questions, and again, this is lifetime study inside this music, and I am only a tiny, tiny entrance point into this amazing style. But I think you get a sense of what's going on with some cool ideas adapted to mallets, piano, wherever you want to put it. For now, I'm going to say this is a lot. I've enjoyed presenting this for you. We're going to move on to some other realms and look to the earlier lesson to refresh on the bell pattern and use those two phrases, the bell in the right hand and the shaker, to come up with variations on that. And you can slow it way down, check the notation, recreate it in finale, create your own versions. You know the entry points that you need to get inside your music and your understanding. Just the mechanics. Sometimes I'll just sing the shaker, sing the phrase, and clap the shaker. Sang, si, sang, si, sang, sang, si, 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 sang, si, sang, si. And if I ever need to get a seat on the subway, the trains here in Boston, all I got to do is walk into a train singing that and clapping and stepping, and people will move out of my way, and I'll have all the seats that I want to sit on for a comfortable ride. Of course, I'm joking. That's one of many of my jokes that appear in my classes. All right, I'm rambling a lot. Have fun, carry on, leave me comments, questions, and best of success. Take care.